7-1 position to give them a good chance of making the top 8 tomorrow with a decent record.
Both players comfortably waiting in their Carnox chairs. As we are underway here, Hamilton will lead on an Urza's power plant. Magalhaes shocks for Temple Garden to 18. Arbor Elf is where he will start.
Yeah, but it looks like Hamilton might actually already have turn 3 Tron. And if that's the case, this is bad news for Edgar.
Yeah, there's the mine, so lining up for turn 3 Tron. There's some question, you know, Tron doesn't necessarily do anything to stop Edgar from just going off with his combo. So if he has a fast combo draw, this could still very much be his game.
Right, but I mean, the big mana allows Hamilton to do some more busted things. You know, Karn the Great Creator plus something like Chalice of the Void would be quite powerful. Allows him to get stuff like Trinosphere if he wants to, although I don't think he has that in the sideboard.
Basic Forest, Utopia Sprawl in the Forest. That's a combination with Arbor Elf, but instead he's going to untap the Temple Garden after casting Devoted Druid. So here's a second Arbor Elf. Hamilton's got to clean up that Druid. There's a potential combo on the table.
Yeah, if he's unable to get this Druid off the battlefield, then just a lot of cards from Edgar let him go infinite.
Urza's Tower for Hamilton. Tron is online.
We're going to float a mana here, casting this Thought-Knot Seer. We're going to strip Edgar of one of his better cards. Finale of Devastation seems like the obvious one because it lets him go infinite with Vizier of Remedies.
And then it's just 2 Teferi Time Ravelers, so taking 1 doesn't seem terribly effective either.
Right. Whenever I'm hitting my opponent with a discard effect, I am usually looking to take away something that is unique to their hand.
Yeah, so there goes the Finale.
Yep. And then the last mana here is going to be used to cast Expedition Map and then probably crack it next turn.
Looks like one of the leftovers is going to be Ugin for Hamilton. We go back Magalhaes way.
Now this is a pretty sweet start from Edgar. A lot of mana, but this Teferi Time Ravel actually gets to draw 2 cards, one from the Teferi and one from the Thought-Knot Seer's triggered effect. And now Edgar here can make up to 6 mana if he so chooses without losing any real traction on the battlefield and without even playing a land, thanks to the Utopia Sprawl combination with Arbor Elf.
Yep, pretty nice swing for him. Let's see what else he can assemble this turn. Since we last saw the hand, there are 3 fresh cards hanging out there. One of them is going to be this Temple Garden. He'll shock to 16. Going to tap the Devoted Druid and the Garden, and there's Vizier.
And that's infinite green mana. But what can he do with said infinite green mana? He has a Teferi Time Raveler that he can't quite cast. He can use both Arbor Elves to cast it, cycle it to draw a card, and try to kill his opponent that way.
Yes, you see he'll untap his white mana and his blue mana with the Elves, cast the backup Teferi, hoping to draw something nice off of this -3 here.
Yeah, and there's a lot of hits. A lot of hits here actually win the game on the spot for Edgar. That Vizier is a huge draw.
Yep. He has infinite mana, so Karn the Great Creator can go ahead and drum up Mycosynth Lattice right away. Could go find a Finale with infinite mana. Just an Arbor Elf, though.
Yeah, he actually decided to bounce the Arbor Elf with the Teferi Time Raveler, I guess to give himself an extra blocker, because he has infinite green mana, and he's already used the Arbor Elf, so there's very little reason not to.
Hamilton will go and find a Blast Zone.
This can clean up Arbor Elves and the Utopia Sprawl, but it cannot quite deal with the Devoted Druid and Vizier just yet.
It would take a turn to do that.
Hamilton is going to be able to cast a Thought-Knot Seer, but I cannot imagine that it's going to take anything of relevance because Edgar would have basically killed him otherwise or cast all the cards in his hand.
Right.
So if it hits anything, it's probably going to be another Teferi Time Raveler that he was unable to cast, but my gut says that there's just 2 lands hanging out in Edgar's hand.
So Hamilton will play that Blast Zone. Here's a tap of 6 mana. It's going to be Ugin the Ineffable.
That is one that breaks up the combo. He can minus on the Ugin to pop off the Devoted Druid or the Vizier, whichever he so chooses.
Gets a discount on that Thought-Knot Seer. It's a nice interaction. Takes the only spell in Edgar's hand. It was a backup Vizier. Misty Rainforest is the leftover.
Yeah, now if he minuses the Ugin to take care of either combo piece, he is leaving his Ugin vulnerable to an attack from the Arbor Elves, but I think that that's okay.
Yeah, goes ahead and takes care of the Devoted Druid, passes back to Edgar. Despite infinite mana, Edgar's not up to much.
Yeah, you got to do something with said infinite mana, but another Time Raveler off the top, quite a draw, because it, again, bounce to the Thought here, lets Edgar see 2 fresh cards. Let's see if he's able to reassemble the combo in the face of this Ugin and Blast Zone.
One of the draws was Windswept Heath. That one won't do anything. Didn't get a look at the other.
Not sure it's a spell. I think he's got Heath, Breeding Pool, and, well, I can't see the third card.
Misty Rainforest.
It's not great, but still not dead yet, and that Thought Seer is not going to have a major impact next turn.
Yeah, that's true. Tack takes down Ugin. Should be 3 points, hitting Hamilton to 17. And we'll see what he can do on his turn. Draws an Urza's Tower. No shortage of mana for him.
This is one of the downsides of playing a deck with the Devoted Druid Vizier combo. Sometimes you just don't have enough. You have like the infinite mana but nothing to do with it. Sometimes you have way too much to do and not enough mana. If your opponent is constricting your mana with things like Gut Shot, Lightning Bolt, Fatal Push, oftentimes that leaves you with just too much action, not enough resources. And here we actually just have the exact opposite. Hamilton took away a Finale of Devastation with a Thought Seer. Was able to kind of check a few other things with a recast Thought Seer. Ugin was able to minus and eventually break up the combo, and Edgar just has a bunch of mishmash of things and nothing to do.
Definitely in a tough spot. Combo broken up, bunch of lands in hand, some mopey creatures on the table. Planeswalker with only 1 loyalty, and Hamilton's got another Ugin. Discounts that Thought Seer again, sees those 2 lands. Can't take those.
Dude, I love that Edgar just immediately switched the dice to a black dice.
Appreciate what you do
Thanks,
here.
dude. You the best.
Plus on Ugin this time. Make one of those 2/2 spirit tokens. And we'll go back to Edgar. Needs to draw something.
Yeah, even a Finale of Devastation here is... well, I guess, let's see. How much mana can he actually generate, right? So it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So he's just short of being able to do the big Finale of Devastation. But with the Teferi Plus, he actually can do it at instant speed. So Hamilton also did not tick up the Blast Zone. Important to note. So if Edgar drew Finale of Devastation, he can actually go get the Devoted Druid during the end step. And untap, make infinite mana.
It seems like Hamilton's plan probably involves popping that Blast Zone for 1 then, clear out the Arbor Elves and the Sprawl.
Yeah, you have to imagine. He was 1 short of being able to do it because it does cost 3 to activate Blast Zone's pop ability.
Mind Stone cast for free because of the Ugin. Hamilton's going to sacrifice that with the mana floating.
That's a nice one. But Hamilton here also equally flooding out. The difference is he has an Ugin the Ineffable.
It looks like he's going to go ahead and crack that Blast Zone now. Still with 1 counter. And that's a 3-for-1.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And we're going to shove in here for 6. I think 4 is going at Edgar and 2 is going at the Teferi. So I like this attack because it puts a reasonable amount of pressure on the Planeswalker because that Vizier Remedies is so important to the combo. But Edgar just going to let the Teferi die.
Teferi down. Edgar to 12. Ugin goes up to 6. Here's another Spirit token. Eldrazi Temple's land for turn. Hamilton will pass.
And that's unfortunate for Edgar. He really needed to have that on the end step and doesn't have it. Looks like he might be scooping him up. Oh, no.
Consulting the graveyard.
Drew another Vizier of Remedies. That ain't it.
Yeah, that one is just not good at all when it comes to redundant copies when you already have one sticking around.
Yeah, there's a reason why a lot of these Devoted Druid decks for the longest time have only played 1 copy of Vizier of Remedies. It's because the second one is actually useless.
It's a slightly worse Glory Seeker.
Love me some Glory Seeker.
Edgar's giving it a think.
You
Maybe you consulted the graveyard. The finality does search your graveyard, too.
I'm curious how Edgar approaches this next few turns. He had the option in response to the Blast Zone to Finale for quite a bit. I'm not 100% he had the Finale, but I'm pretty sure he had Finale last turn. Still has it. and he's just waiting for the right turn to assemble the combo all in one at once. You would think he would want to assemble the infinite combo at instant speed after the Ugin had already ticked up, and he did have the ability to do so because of the Teferi's +1. That stays around until the end of turn.
Well, now Hamilton's trying to close the game real quick. Here's a reality smasher.
I think that's just lethal. It's 13 coming in, minus on the Vizier, and Edgar only has things at sorcery speed.
Well,
but he chose not to minus.
Yeah, no pre-combat, so the Vizier gets to jump in front of the Thought Knot Seer, and 9 comes across. Magalhaes to 3. Ugin to 7. There's another Spirit.
Curiouser and Curiouser.
From no creatures, I don't believe that Edgar can do it, right?
No, his deck's not really capable of that. He would need something like Post-Mortem Lunge to bring back the Devoted Druid. If he draws that, he goes to 1, then casts Vizier, and then he makes Infinite Mana, cast Finale Devastation for Infinity. So actually the Post-Mortem Lunge gave him an out.
All right.
Didn't find it. Ultimately had to pack it in the face of so much pressure, but you saw the Blast Zone was a 3-for-1. Edgar was never really able to assemble all the pieces of the combo. That's exactly how the Eldrazi Tron deck needs to approach this matchup.
All right, so players are going to go to sideboards. Michael Hamilton up a game over Edgar Magalhaes. Now, we've been talking about, last round, we saw this sort of Karn sideboard package in action. Most of these cards he has here are artifacts that he can find with Karn the Great Creator. Outside of that, has some graveyard hate. Now, sometimes you do board in these cards. A lot of this is just, contextual. I will grab it with my Karn. The one card I want to ask you about is that extra Walking Ballista. Sure. Would you rather be able to wish for it or have it in your deck to draw it?
That's actually the eternal question when it comes to these wish packages. Do you want the 4th one in the sideboard or the 3rd one in the sideboard, or do you just want more to naturally draw? I think that the way that this deck operates, if he casts a Karn, it's pretty unlikely he's going to be getting the Walking Ballista off of the Karn unless he's got most things wrapped up. What you want to probably get is Sorcerous Spyglass, because even though it locks down the untap ability of the Devoted Druid, and if I'm not mistaken, it may actually lock down mana ability. No, it doesn't do mana abilities. That's right, because it can name Search for Escanta, but doesn't turn off its ability to tap for blue. So it does stop the untap. So I think you do want the Walking Ballista in your deck, but you don't really want the Sorcerous Spyglass in your deck. Other than that, I don't really see a whole lot that you want to bring in. Everything else seems like very weird one-ofs you want to tutor for in specific situations, or anti-graveyard stuff.
All right, and Edgar Magalhaes also playing a Karn the Great Creator deck, though his sideboard does have more options. He has the Mycosynth Lattice, Pithing Needle, Engineered Explosives, Walking Ballista, Tormod's Crypt, Chalice of the Void, all stuff he wants to grab with Karn.
Yeah, it's a really tight Karn the Great Creator package.
And that gives him some spells. Let's see what we think about them. 3 Rest in Peace.
Not really for this matchup, mostly for Dredge and Is It Phoenix.
All right, 1 Postmortem Lunge.
This matchup, there's not a whole lot of Eldrazi Tron killing your creatures. It did happen to be quite good in the previous game if he was able to draw it, because he did have a dead Devoted Druid. But I don't think you want another one, and I may even be inclined to sideboard some out.
All right, 3 Path to Exile.
I do think you want Path to Exile as a means to check Thought Knot Seer and occasionally Reality Smasher. Plus, there are times where if your opponent goes to kill your, turn 1 elf or whatever, you can sometimes path it later in the game and generate a mana that way. You don't do that too often, but sometimes in a pinch when you're low on mana, it's quite good.
2 Negate.
Don't love it. The meat of Hamilton's deck is going to be creature-oriented, and Negate's more for the combo decks or just instant sorcery heavy decks.
Well, great insights on sideboarding there from Star City Games' own Todd Anderson, a premium writer for the site.
Whoa.
You want more insights from Todd or other great writers over on the staff? We'd appreciate you if you would become a premium subscriber. You get exclusive content, ad-free experience, 5% discount on SCG purchases. Modern Horizons is dropping. There's some nice cards in that set. That discount comes in handy.
Yeah, and that's all SCG purchases, not just individual cards you can buy. Sleeves, booster packs. I know that Star City Games started carrying the Katana sleeves from Ultimate Guard, and it's 5% off of all this stuff. Really starts to add up, and it honestly just pays for itself. Personally, I know I buy new sleeves basically every tournament I play, and if I had a 5% discount on everything, which I do because I am a premium subscriber, I just get everything a little bit cheaper than normal.
So to subscribe, go to go.starcitygames.com/premium. Now myself, I'm just rolling in free katana sleeves from Cedric Phillips.
What? Really?
If you just, harass him enough on Twitter.
Are you joking or serious?
At Cedric A. Phillips. Yo, where are my sleeves at?
Did he really send you a bunch of sleeves?
He'll give you a tracking number, mail them to you. Now, I tried to run the tracking number. It didn't register as a real tracking number.
Oh, well, what was it?
But I've been told that they're on the way.
Okay. Are you not allowed to say the tracking number?
It's inappropriate. It's not. It's a family show, Todd.
All right. Well, players here are ready for game 2. Let's head down to the action.
Utopia Sprawl on a basic forest for Edgar. Nice mana development.
Yeah, very likely to be naming whites or blue here in order to help facilitate those off-color spells. Utopia Sprawl quite good in this deck, especially when combined with Arbor Elf.
And great start for Hamilton. Urza's Power Plant is into Expedition Map. We'll see what Edgar can do on turn 2. It's another Sprawl with the mana floating on another basic forest. And there's Teferi Time Raveler. So you got one on blue and one on white. Bounce your Expedition Map. That is incredible.
That's a hell of a turn right there.
All right, Urza's Mine was the draw for Hamilton. So in some amount of time, he will have Tron online.
Right, but it ain't going to be turn 3.
Right, Mind Stone will be the cast off of his 2 mana.
It might be online, but it's not going to be full throttle yet.
Sure. Expedition Map redeployed. Go back Edgar's way.
Now let's see if Edgar has a good follow-up here. That bounce on the Expedition Map, while seemingly innocuous, could have put Michael back a full turn.
And Magalhaes just really up on mana. Starting turn 3 with 4 mana. If he has another land, it'll be 5.
Yeah, looks like he has a Vizier of Remedies already, so he's going to be looking for a Devoted Druid. Let's see if he has something like Finale of Devastation to go get it.
Plus his Teferi, casts a fresh Teferi. Once again, well, he's actually going to think about where he spots. It's going to be the Expedition Map again, though. Draw a card. Arbor Elf off the floating mana there. Temple Garden tapped. Back to Hamilton.
Yeah, I think Edgar's really searching for a Finale of Devastation so he can plus the Teferi, EOT Finale, untap, play Vizier, and catch Hamilton off guard. Here, Hamilton can assemble Tron. You can cast the map off the Mind Stone, tap his 2 Tron lands to pop it, go get Tower, and still has 3 mana to cast some more stuff this turn. So a pretty fine turn from him, even if he just goes with what he has on the battlefield and in hand that we know about.
So there's Expedition Map. Crack it right away. Go find that Urza's Tower. Play that. That much is easy.
I think he also might have had the option to go for Chalice of the Void on X equals 2. That could have potentially slowed Edgar's development a bit, but Hamilton is aware that Finale of Devastation gets around Chalice quite easily.
Just pay extra mana.
It just has 4 cost X equals 4.
Yeah. Even if you were to Chalice on 4, say.
Yeah. Looks like he's going to go for a Chalice on 1, though, just to utilize his mana for the turn. I like this play. Lets him set things up for next turn.
Yeah, so it was a second Mind Stone, Chalice on 1. And we're back to Magalhaes, Teferi to 2.
It's like Edgar has access to Eternal Witness, Vizier of Remedies, but I don't know if either of these do a whole lot at the moment.
Yeah, I like the Time Ravelers conceptually. What they do for the deck makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But in these games, I've seen him a little bit flooded on that effect.
Yeah, I would want some more stuff like Collected Company or cards that give you a big burst of an advantage when you have a lot of mana. We see time and time again this Devoted Devastation deck can assemble, either the infinite mana or just has way too much to do. In this case, we have a Vizier lying around, we have an Eternal Witness, but no Devoted Druid, so we can't really do a whole lot of anything. Even though Edgar has a ton of mana, like just looking at the battlefield right now, he has 7 mana he can work with to cast an Eternal Witness, but it's just getting back a redundant Time Raveler that's going to bounce something and draw a card, which is fine, but, doesn't really do enough.
Yeah, and that's a lot of mana, but Hamilton has surpassed him now that Tron's online. Once you get back to Hamilton's next turn, they're going to start looking a lot more explosive as well.
Right.
All right, so Eternal Witness, that's where Magalhaes starts. Picks up the other Teferi.
At the sometimes at tournaments, the head judge at the beginning of a tournament will make a food and or drink pun and basically like a, hey, keep your food and drink off the table. My favorite ever, Eternal Wetness.
I do enjoy those.
Yeah, it's good. It's good puns.
This is a nice little loop we saw from Magalhaes. So he picked up Teferi with Eternal Witness, then used that Teferi to bounce the Eternal Witness, draws a card. It's a very expensive,
yes,
but it's a value engine he has going on.
Yeah, and he has a 1 mana floating still from untapping a Utopia Sprawl. Uses that in conjunction with the Temple Garden. Going to play this Vizier of Remedies, but that does not look nearly as good if you don't have Devoted Druid. Just 2 mana, 2/1.
Yeah, Vizier is the one you can deploy whenever.
Right.
Devoted Druid is the one you need to untap with.
I'm starting to see some things that I find not conceptually wrong with the Devoted Devastation deck, but more so similar problems we've seen with this type of deck in the past. This plan B of Teferi, Time Raveler, just doesn't feel like it's giving you enough of an advantage when you draw it. And if your opponent's able to break up that infinite mana combo, your deck just doesn't really have a good alternate angle of attack.
It seems like this is a deck that we see pop up now and again, where there's some kind of upgrade, some new card filtering kind of thing you can add to it, and it seems like it's going to get a lot better. And then it just ends up being fine again.
Yeah, I mean, I was very excited about this deck when I first heard about it this morning. I'm very curious to see how this deck is doing overall in the hands of multiple players at this event, high-level players playing it. Pete Ingram, for one, I know we saw him lose to Tron actually in round 5, and now Edgar on the ropes against Eldrazi Tron. It's possible that this deck is just weak to these big mana strategies.
All right, so Urza's Tower into Karn the Great Creator, -2, Sorceress Spyglass. It's Hamilton's turn. Going to take a look at Edgar's hand, some fetch lands, and that Eternal Witness he already knew about. Name's Teferi Time Raveler. And 5 mana play, Reality Smasher.
Yeah, might want to play defense with this one.
Yep.
Next turn has the option if he draws a blocker or removal spell. Next turn you can minus Karn the Great Creator, go get Mycosynth Lattice and cast it, and then potentially protect his Karn from an attack from these cheap creatures. That'll effectively lock out Edgar from casting basically anything else.
And the Smasher hangs back.
Looks like Edgar drew another land, so this is not looking great for him.
This is a big endorsement that we see Magalhaes playing this deck.
I agree. Normally he's huge on the Amulet Titan deck.
Playing and just crushing with Amulet Titan.
Right. Yeah, him and Dilk's both very skilled with the deck. We saw Rossum on it earlier in a backup match against Dylan Hand, where he took it down pretty easily against humans. But here, Edgar has chosen to play this Devoted Devastation deck, and while it hasn't really lived up to the hype so far, it's possible we're just seeing it falter against these big mana Tron/Karn the Great Creator opponents.
Makes an attack at the Karn. Reality Smasher will eat the Vizier. Arbor Elf knocks Karn to 2. There's an Eternal Witness. Picks up Vizier. Cast that one again. Misty Rainforest, go.
Yeah, now if the Great Creator wants to tick down, it can't really. I mean, it can get Mycosynth Lattice, but won't be nearly as effective without that static effect from the Karn. So, gonna be looking for Hamilton here to find something a bit more impactful if he does end up cashing in that Karn the Great Creator.
We'll sacrifice Mind Stone. 1 mana floating.
I drew an Expedition map, but that is effectively dead at this juncture, thanks to his own Chalice of the Void.
And he'll crack the other Mind Stone. Looks like he's picked up some lands.
Yeah, both players flooding out a bit, but the difference is that Hamilton's natural draws are going to be a little more powerful off the cuff than Edgar's. And Edgar needs to be able to get to untap with a Devoted Druid because it does have summoning signals.
Hamilton's going to bump the Karn up, as you mentioned. Well, he's going to reconsider that. There might be something besides Lattice that he can go and grab from the sideboard.
Yeah, I mean, if he kept the Walking Ballista, he has that to potentially get. Mostly, though, like Wormcoil Engine's probably floating out there. That can help maybe close the game a little more quickly. Yeah, he's going to go get Warm Coil Engine probably, or Walking Ballista depending. I think if he had Ballista, he would have already gotten it though, because he burned the 2 Mind Stones, and he would rather just make a giant Walking Ballista to clean this up. But it looks like he did sideboard that in, so he doesn't have access to it out of the sideboard right now.
So we found and cast Worm Coil Engine. Reality Smasher attacked Magalhaes to 12, fetched down to 11. We'll go back Edgar's way. He assembled kind of a motley crew of some creatures with power, but now against Reality Smasher Worm Coil Engine, now that the game is no longer about that Karn, his battlefield does look a little bit embarrassing. And again, untapping with Vizier, not untapping with Devoted Druid.
Right. I think that's just the eternal goal playing against Devoted Druid is never let them untap with a Devoted Druid, because if they do, they threaten infinite mana. We saw Edgar had the ability to make infinite mana in game 1, but it wasn't quite enough. But a card in the Great Creator off the top. This could be anything. Could even be a boat.
An above average draw. We'll see where he wants to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got his entire sideboard at his disposal.
He's going to consult the board, see what we got. His board's a little bit different than Hamilton. Yeah, so he's got an Ensnaring Bridge as an option. Pithing Needle, Engineered Explosives.
Yeah, I mean, he could just get Engineered Explosives, clean up the Sorcerer Spyglass, but that knocks off his own Vizier of Remedy, so not that good. The rest is like anti-graveyard stuff. Could potentially get Lattice and maybe try to protect the card next turn, but it's going to be hard because the Reality Smasher has Trample. And as we've talked about, he doesn't actually have access to a whole lot of excuse me, I got caught off guard there with that Ghost Quarter, but he doesn't have that huge Card in the Great Creator package, so it's going to be a little harder for him to get full value out of it.
Yeah, so he went to untap one of his Sprawled Forest. Ghost Quarter was the response. Now he's going to -2 the Karn and grab Ensnaring Bridge.
Yeah, and that's step 1. He can go Ensnaring Bridge this turn, and the next turn Karn minus again and cast Mycosynth Lattice, and that could be all she wrote. Just lock Michael Hamilton completely out of the game.
Right. Plays Windswept Heath as his land for turn, 1 card in hand. These Worm Coil Engines, Reality Smashers, they're not getting across this bridge.
Oh, man, but there's a card in the Great Creator from Hamilton himself. And he can play it and get Mycosynth Lattice and completely shut off Edgar now, too. And now he's gonna do it first. Wow, what a draw.
These Karn mirrors, huh?
Yeah.
This is a sight to see.
This is potentially problematic. If you're Edgar in this spot, you just have to be thinking to yourself, really? You really I peeled on you, right? That's fine. I peeled on you.
Yeah.
You're going to re-peel on me? Really?
Yeah. I put in all this work peeling on you, and then you just kind of undid it.
Here's the weird scenario. Because both players have a card in the Great Creator, because there's an Ensnaring Bridge on the battlefield, neither player after that will be able to cast spells.
The old library count.
Yeah.
Who's going to run out first?
Now, I think that ultimately Hamilton will win because neither player can play a spell. And then eventually Edgar's just going to draw some spells, which will turn off the Ensnaring Bridge and allow both Worm Coil Engine and Reality Smasher to potentially attack. And then Hamilton can just wait till he gets to... So he casts Lattice, and then over the next few turns he'll go tick up, tick up. Actually, no, they can't even activate anymore. Both cards are shut off because of the statics from each of the Karn, the Great Creators. This is... I think Hamilton just said, I have more cards on my deck than you, I win. And honestly, more power to you. Let's close it up.
I heard you like puzzles, Amulet Titan player. Here's a puzzle.
Here's a puzzle. Can you win anymore? No, you cannot.
It's an arithmetic-based puzzle. Oh, this is the best. You love to see that. There's some back and forth counting the decks, but yeah. It looks like whoever has more cards is taking this one down, and you got to figure if Hamilton's casting the Lattice, it's him.
Yeah, he counted first, and that's going to do it. Edgar going to concede because he is getting decked.
And Michael Hamilton moving on to 7-1, a player with 2 invitational top 8s in this building, looking for a third.
Yeah, and with a 7-1 start with an interesting modern deck that looks quite powerful, as well as a 4-0 start in standard, we know he has a good standard deck, and he looks like he has a pretty good modern deck as well.
Yeah, both of these decks, they did look pretty good. You know, Magalhaes, his deck was starting to look good that turn when he drew the Karn. And it's kind of like, okay, he had a lot of mana when that happened.